Hello, welcome. Today we are doing a report for the Sol y Luna inspirations on the full moon and the new moon. This week we'll be doing a talk today about the Leo full moon coming up on February 5th, Sunday, 2023 we're in, and it's going to be at 12:43 p.m. So just after noon. That's in Pacific Standard Time, so adjust for your location. And it's going to be just a couple days after Imbolc. Bring on the light. So, hello, Martin. How are you today?
I feel like that guy. Wow. So much going on, huh? It's like the energy of the full moon. So I was talking to someone today. Well, it's like the new moon almost felt like a full moon. And then my friend was saying, wow, if this was like the new moon, then what's the full moon going to be like? And that's a full moon in Leo. We want to thank everybody for subscribing to the channel and for following us. We're up to 481 subscribers. We're nearing the 500. We can smell the 500. This is exciting. So please share, comment, pass it on to your friends. Encourage people to subscribe, and we're growing slowly but surely. And we keep on delivering great material for those who like to dive a little deeper. So let's dive deep into this moon. What does this moon got to offer for us?
This moon, well, that full moon in Leo, so it's because we're in Aquarius season. Every time you have a full moon, it's going to be in the opposite axis as the sun is in. Now that we're in Aquarius, that makes it Leo. And so then it's going to be T-square Uranus. What would you say about that, Martin?
So first, let's talk about Imbolc. Sure. Imbolc, what is Imbolc?
Ooh, good one. From what I know of Imbolc is the meeting point between the darkest day of the year and the beginning of spring.
Well, technically, if you just go purely astrologically, it's actually the beginning of spring. And in ancient culture, it was the beginning of spring. So from Samhain, Halloween, to Imbolc, that's the darkest quarter of the year. So Samhain is the celebration of the dark, and Imbolc is Candelamas. It's the celebration of the light. So in Christian tradition, Candelamas is Christ coming into the temple. So if we look at Jesus as the symbol of the solar self, then the solar self comes into its power at Candelamas, a festival of the light. At Candelamas or in Imbolc, you plant a few seeds. This is the beginning of your garden. This is, everybody's, buying their seeds. People are starting to germinate their seeds. So for a little ritual to inspire abundance in your garden and in your life, do a ritual of planting some seeds and connecting and lighting some candles and celebrating. Bring on the light. We're coming out of the dark quarter of the year, and that's really a beautiful time of the year.
Yeah. Last night and lately I've been studying too. Imbolc was traditionally, like, at least in this study I was doing, traditionally a ceremony and time that was dedicated to goddess Bridget or Breed, or there's many other, seems like there's many words for the same kind of entity. And she was the goddess of clear thinking and the light, and also inspiration and ideas. And I thought that was neat because Aquarius season is it's an air sign, and it's the bringer of information, but there can be a lot of inspiration and pulling you forward into the future. And so the goddess of Bridget, in the ceremony of her being in this time of year, made a lot of sense to me. I also was reading how it is a huge gathering of light, and one of the ceremonies read a lot of is lighting 9 candles, and how for 9 centuries it's told there's a palace that's dedicated to goddess Bridget, or a temple I should say, and they kept the candles going apparently for 9 centuries. If that's true, that's quite a long time and a lot of beautiful dedication.
Well, in the history of the world, 900 years is pretty short.
Yeah, but to continuously never let a candle go out?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So Diana, with this bring on in the light and Imbolc, Diana picked a card, the Fool, so that's kind of the beginning of the tarot, the beginning of the beginning of the hero's journey. So this is there's a real sense of we're starting to begin the year, and then we just had the Chinese New Year, and so it's not quite the New Year of astrology. The New Year of astrology starts on the spring equinox, and so we'll have more about that. But what else is on our calendar for the moon here?
Yeah, you have nothing else to share about Imbolc?
I think that we did that. We did that.
A beautiful ceremony.
So Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Leo. What does that feel to you like? Sun in Aquarius, Moon in Leo.
I think of the fixed access a lot, and I think about the community and collective versus the personal. How about you?
That's right. And then the Sun in Aquarius, community, Moon in Leo. Leo is ruled by the sun, so this is a very solar full moon, right? It's and so shining our light in the community, and it makes a T-square to Uranus at the ascendant there. So we're done with that. We're done with that Saturn square Uranus. Wow, that was intense. But now we're just doing the Uranus thing. So the light bringer is feeling a little bit freer. And so then with the, this solar full moon in T-square to Uranus, we're pretty inspired, the light bringer. And so bring on the light. There's another symbolism of that bringing on the light. We got Imbolc, and we have a sun, moon, Uranus, T-square. So that's a powerful beginning to Imbolc. And you mentioned about Imbolc starting a few days. Well, this full moon is at 16 degrees and 40 minutes. And traditionally, from astrology's perspective, Imbolc falls at 15 degrees of Aquarius. So yeah, it's just right on there, a couple of days before, so this is definitely an Imbolc full moon. And so, yes, what else do we got?
Cusp. I'm going to just take a moment while we're talking about this big T-square. If you, in your solar chart, your natal solar chart, have anything at 15 or 16 degrees of these fixed signs, you probably are going to feel this really a lot more than some others might. It's quite activating. These are all within like about 2 degrees of each other. And so
our friend Travis has his sun at that 15 degrees Aquarius, so he's feeling that one pretty intense. The ground is shaking for him.
May the light come through.
Well, sometimes you got to be shaken up for transformation to take place, for sure. So a very transformational full moon. And then we have the Mercury Pluto conjunction and the psychopomp. So Mercury, the trickster, one of the names for Mercury is the psychopomp. The psychopomp is the function of the guide of souls who takes the soul across the river of Styx. So he's the boat keeper that takes the soul into Hades and the underworld. So then we have a Mercury conjunct Pluto, and Mercury Pluto, well, Mercury is completely comfortable going down to hell. That's his function, right? He's the guide, right? So he's very comfortable. So he's checking in with the Lord of Hell. And so this is a really interesting time to tune into the trickster to find out what messages does he bring from the underworld. So ancestral communications, check your dreams, find out what's going on, do some, so astrology is theurgic. Theurgic meaning that it's a system of gods, right? And so as we pray, we can pray to Mercury for inspiration, and we can pray to Hades to liberate some message from our ancestral line, from our ancestral rage, from things that may be trapped in the unconscious that need to be released. So that's the psychopomp Mercury Pluto conjunction.
The function of that.
How does that feel to you?
Feels really good. That makes a lot of sense. I also notice how like Mercury checks in once, usually probably about only once a year with Pluto.
Yeah.
So that would be the next check-in. I also notice how like we just came through the new moon, and in the new moon, we had that Venus Mercury. No, the new moon, sorry, itself was conjunct Pluto.
Exactly.
So now Mercury is coming to like, I feel like, tie up any loose ends or bring maybe more communication and thought awareness to what might have come up for you last weekend with the new moon.
Or so now Mercury's turning direct. It's turned direct, right? When it was moving direct before turning retrograde, it came almost to Pluto, and then it turned retrograde.
Right.
So now it's coming back, and then it's following the trace of the sun. So whatever the sun forgot or didn't get in his conjunction with Hades, Mercury is making sure to pick up the crumbs and following along and gathering information that may have slipped through. So that's a really nice meditation on the psychopomp.
I love that. And then it's making nice sextile to Neptune. And then there's the big Jupiter Chiron conjunction that's starting to come closer.
And that Jupiter Chiron conjunction also makes angle to the sun.
Oh yeah. Well.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And also makes angle to the moon. But also a thing that we forgot is that Saturn is also in conjunction with the sun and in opposition with the moon. So that Saturnian, and also Saturn rules, this moon being the final dispositor. So then being really mindful of the discipline that is required to become a light bringer. And so this Jupiter Chiron is really about that. And so we're having Jupiter Chiron conjunction on March 11th. So much is happening in March this year. We're going to feel that pretty energetically. It's going to be very telling. And this Jupiter Chiron conjunction is one of the main points of that end of winter. So Jupiter Chiron in Aries, we're going to do a whole video on that. But what does that feel like to you, Jupiter Chiron?
Jupiter and Chiron, to break it down kind of simple first, I guess. Jupiter I think of as like, it makes things come into the center stage, and it blows things up, and it's a big presence, and often to me has a lot to do with like not just blowing things up, but also belief systems and kind of the God role in ourself, I guess. And then Chiron being the wounded healer probably potentially has potential to blow up what needs to be healed within us, or what we have healed, and then also maybe take some more, because it's in Aries, personal direction and focus on claiming our power in that field.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Yes. Jupiter being the wise teacher, Chiron being the wise healer that's learned from his wounds, so in a higher octave of expression, this is really forcing us to integrate and to become the wise teacher, wise healer, and so this is kind of this archetypal shift, of telling a new story, engaging with the new times, creating momentum for an evolutionary breakthrough. And so Jupiter, Chiron, in a higher octave of expression is beautiful. In the lower octave of expression, I think there's inflation of the wound, so we could feel really wounded and really like, oh, so then in a dark side of expression, our wound can become paralyzed, or we can get inflated or take our wounds too seriously, or and there's a bit of self-pity there, and so it's tricky to work with. And so, manifesting true wisdom is not an easy thing, because we tend to be inflated. We think too highly of ourselves. So I think in dealing with that Jupiter, especially Jupiter in Aries, it's going to make everything really big. So if we can be wise about that and be humble in our bigness, and to just realize that, oh, that's a lot of responsibility. Jupiter, Chiron, that's a lot of responsibility to become the wise teacher, wounded healer archetype. That's like, oh, so I take that seriously. And yet I take, and it informs the moon as well, the full moon, with Uranus and Saturn there. So there's a sense of responsibility that if we don't do it, who will? If we don't do it, who will? If not I, then whom? And so Jupiter Chiron conjunction, and we're going to do a whole video on that. I've been doing some studies. It's a very interesting. And then in that video, we'll do a full breakdown of the archetypal structure of Chiron, and look at the myth of Chiron. And then we'll also look at the Chiron Jupiter conjunction for what kind of meaning is to be gotten from that.
Love it. That's exciting. Another thing coming up soon is the Saturn ingress into Pisces, which isn't happening for about another month or so. But
happens also in March.
Yeah.
And then Pluto coming in Aquarius also in March. So I put those two there because I think we're starting to feel it. That Pluto in Aquarius, I think all you have to remember is what happens when Pluto came into Capricorn.
Yeah.
Pluto came into Capricorn in 2008, and everything has been crumbling ever since. Right? So then what is that going to look like with Pluto coming into Aquarius? So our communities and our, wow, so really focusing on that, and we'll do a video on that too. And then the shift of Saturn into Pisces, that's really different also. We're going to have 2 generations of people getting their Saturn returned, yourself included.
Maybe 3.
3 generations if you're 90 years old. Yeah. You are getting your 3rd Saturn return, but for sure. So what, we'll go over those dates, and we'll talk about what to expect if you were born with Saturn and Pisces. Yeah. But to me, Saturn and Pisces, it's, Saturn is our sense of limit and boundaries, and what we don't feel so confident about. In a higher octave of expression, it is what we hear to master. And so then, but the Neptunian, the Pisces, last sign of the zodiac, can be experienced as a flooding. And so, making sure your boat is really safe, make sure there's no cracks on the boat, and so I think that if there are any cracks in your boat, and you're not really learning the lesson of Pisces, which is to surrender to a higher power, and if you're only counting on your own ego to get you through, you might take some water in. So, but also in terms of mystical practice and spiritual practice, this is a fabulous time for that. And then as Saturn moves through Pisces, it's going to culminate with a conjunction with Neptune. So we're going to talk lots more about that as these next couple of years pass.
We'll do a whole video on that one as well, which should be exciting.
Absolutely.
Got some important dates for you to take note if you'd like over the next month here. So of course the full moon, but first actually we're going to have Venus ingress into Pisces.
Venus ingress into Pisces. What do you think about Venus ingress into Pisces?
I feel like Venus would love being in Pisces.
I have Venus in Pisces. Venus in Pisces, somebody said once, it's I think it's Liz Green, that Venus in Pisces is Mother Teresa kind of love. It's a universal love. And so, you know, there's a short-lived transit, and there'll be a Venus conjunction with Neptune that's going to be beautiful. It'll be about a month, but this is a big love kind of moon, so a kind of transit. So
good for Valentine's Day.
Yes, but it's good for Valentine's Day. Yes.
And then the full moon is going to be on February 5th. That's a Sunday. 16 degrees of Aquarius. Watching that in your chart, if you have anything at those degrees, take note, give yourself a little extra space and love and time over that weekend. February 10th, we have Mercury Pluto conjunction at 28 degrees Capricorn.
So that's a good time to do some ceremony to try to check in with Mercury to see what kind of message can come from the Lord of Death.
I love it. I love Pluto and Mercury. They're two big allies of mine. So I'm definitely going to put it in my date book to spend at least an hour writing that day.
And then we have a typo here, Fenradi. Okay, yep. Also known as February. Mercury ingress into Aquarius, so the trickster come into the sign of the Aquarius, and so ideals and big ideas and utopic inspiration of Mercury into Aquarius combined with Venus in Pisces. That ought to be interesting. Then on the 19th, we have a Pisces new moon. And so there are going to be lots of planets in Pisces then, Venus, Neptune, the sun and the moon, and then Mercury coming in soon thereafter. So we're coming into Pisces season. And for some folks, that's not always easy.
Right. This is kind of also around the time where we say February blues set in, hey?
That's it.
Yeah. February 21st, Venus will go into Aries, so it'll leave that Pisces, I don't know, sweeter, softer love and maybe be focused more on finding its own way forward.
Venus in Aries says, I want this. Venus knows what she wants in Aries, and that's my birthday. So, all right, I better know what I want for my birthday.
You will on the day, I bet, at least.
Well, I'd already know what I want for my birthday.
Perfect. Good.
I want peace and love.
Of course you do, Mother Teresa.
Yes, exactly.
I love it.
March 7th. So I put these dates, they're far ahead, but put those on your calendar. March 7th, Saturn ingress into Pisces. March 11th, Jupiter Chiron conjunction. And March 23rd, Pluto ingress into Aquarius. Then, of course, we have the first day of spring, the equinox, the sun coming into Aries, the beginning of the astrological year. So March should be quite the month. Let's get prepared for that. And
this Pluto ingressing into Aquarius, this is what a lot of people coin as the true beginning of the age of Aquarius, and that everything up to now has been the prep work. So that's our philosophy, take it or leave it, but it resonates for me.
Well, there's not a lot of evidence that we can go to in terms of scientific evidence to that. The equinox point. So the progression of equinox is how the ages are calculated. And so the equinox point doesn't enter into Aquarius till 2140 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so but then, the different experts that I've talked to it, Jung was Carl Jung was the first one to talk about the age of Aquarius. And he talked about how the early stars of the constellation of Aquarius came into the equinox point in 1940 during World War II. And and then and then we had what happens in 2012 in the Mayan calendar. And then, yes, definitely Pluto in Aquarius, but Pluto in Pluto in Aquarius was there during 1860 to 1880. So, and that's the time of the French Revolution and the American Revolution. So yes, I would agree that Pluto in Aquarius will definitely get the ground ready for the age of Aquarius. But I don't think we really got, or we're not really as a collective getting the lessons of Aquarius yet. And we seem to really be far away still in terms of valuing community and being in a state of changing the world that we live in. We had a good dose of Saturn and Aquarius and in square to Uranus, and that really showed that but then these shift of ages take a couple hundred years, and you look at the last shift of age during the Christian era, it took 300 years, to really, get it together, and it started 300, so these are not it's not one has to be very careful to declare such events as the key point in something. I think that yes, it is definitely one of the steps in there, and we'll see. But um, I tend to be pretty skeptical in terms of mass enlightenment myself.
Yeah, I don't think there's a certain date that everything will shift, but it seems to be cumulative.
Well, I think that for sure Pluto coming into Aquarius will be eventful. What it brings, we're gonna find out.
It's exciting. It's gonna be about back and forth too, so there'll be a transition.
The fool on the hill, they're just ready to jump in. And then you have some beautiful slides for us about healing and tissue salt. So we did the Aquarius and the body last week. So why don't you give us a little, last week, give us a refresher on that.
Yeah, a little review coming into our bodies here. So Aquarius rules the calves and the ankles. It's how we do move around in our body, do the work in the world. Its tissue salt correlation is NATMER. So NATMER, or sodium chloride tissue salt form. So not just straight sodium chloride salt, but diluted to be able to penetrate the cell, is what helps to balance water within the system. So just a reminder, if could be deficient in this, if you're showing symptoms like dry mouth or loss of taste or smell, hay fever, sinus draining. So it could be either too dry or too wet in the system. So again, coming back to that, having a hard time regulating and balancing the moisture within the system. That's again pertaining to our skin. So if you have really wet skin or if you're having really dry skin, and it's associated also with grief. And I think part of that is because there's a lot of crying that can happen, but we tend to let things can get very stagnant when we're dealing with grief at times. And so I think it's part of it is also allowing things to move and keep flowing through us.
This seems to be a very common theme right now. A lot of crying, lots of grieving, lots of challenging times for our emotions and our bodies.
Yeah. And then because it's the Leo full moon, do a little slide here on the Leo. So Leo rules our heart and our motor function within the body. And its tissue salt correlation is number 8, which is MagPhos, magnesium phosphate. So phosphates there's 5 phosphates in the tissue salts, and they rule and help move our nervous system. And then magnesium is something that maybe a lot of you have probably heard of now, as it's getting more and more popular and recognized lately. It's an essential mineral we all need, and this mineral helps with over 300 functions in the body. When you're deficient, it can show up like things, having symptoms like nervous headaches, spasms, anywhere in the body. So whether that's a twitching eyelid or a twitching leg that can't stop, heart palpitations and angina or other signs that magnesium could be deficient. And then muscle cramps or lady cramps can also be signs of magnesium deficiency. Magphos, this tissue salt, helps magnesium be absorbed through the body, but then also recycled and stay in the body. So it's not necessarily the nutrient itself as much as the signaling salt that helps your body remember to keep it and hold it and not let it go so fast. Unfortunately, when we're in a stressed state, our body will let go of magnesium quite quickly to help buffer our blood. And so this tissue salt would be extra helpful if you tend to be more stressed in life, or if you've got some big stressors in your life at the moment. Some herbs that are also associated with Leo are St. John's wort, eyebright, marigold, and walnuts. So St. John's wort is one of those key plants that is at the peak of the Leo season. It's very bright, has that sunshine quality, which Leo represents. Eyebright also can look like a sun, really good for your eyes, motor function again. Marigold and walnuts as well, coming back into your motor function and supporting that within the body.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I was doing some astrological studies and looking at the Mysterium Conjunctionis, which is Jung's most important book on alchemy, and I think kind of very subtly it's on astrology as well. But he talks about, and the alchemist talks about sal, or the salt, and how important the salt is to the experience of transformation. And so I thought it was interesting, and I wonder if, you know, this gentleman that you keep bringing up that did those studies, that's kind of an alchemical perspective. Did he bring alchemy into his studies?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, Schussler.
What was his name?
Well, Schussler did the initial work of the tissue salts, and then Dr. George Carey took it farther and did the more alchemical work where you associate it with our personality, and how in his references the Bible is also signaling how we have these 12 base salts, or these 12 archetypes within us that we need to work with and transform, and if things go out of balance we can become out of balance with life in general.
So in alchemy, the sal, the salt, was not a planet. It was a function of the earth, you know, the salt of the earth. And so in that sense, it is something that is within our psyche, you know, it's our ability to resonate electrically, you know, energetically with the planets. And so it becomes a really important. So that really helped me understand, more importantly, the need for these salts in, you know, but also for having a relationship with the alchemy and understanding all of that, just all ties in together so beautifully.
Yeah, these salts are literally free energy. So when we look at energy, we see electrical output, and because a chemical reaction has happened, there's an electrical output, right? And so a salt is a chemical reaction that took place, and then when it integrates in our body, it's usually another chemical reaction that allows us to break apart the salt. And so again, it frees up energy. I remember being blown away once where these inland dried salts are put, there's a glass of water, positive and negative, going into a light bulb, and this man dropped 3 drops of what's called concentrates, but it's essentially just dried inland seawater, and it's just packed full of salts, tastes like salt, and the light bulb turned on.
Whoa.
And that's how much free energy was available through these minerals, because these minerals are electrical impulses that they react with water in our body.
There you go, huh?
So
okay, that's it. So the Fool, let's jump into the process, you know, let's, you know, be the light bringer. It's Imbolc, it's a powerful full moon, time to shine our light into the world. We so much appreciate your support. Please do subscribe to the channel. Please do comment. If you can share it on your social media, that's better. Any kind of support, we're so appreciative, and we'll catch you down the road. Thank you, Diana, for this beautiful video and for continuing to share these experiences with me.
Thank you, Martin. It's always really fun, and I don't know how to say this. Slightly every time I transform a little bit from getting to dive into these worlds. I will also say that speaking of shining your light in the world, you're going to be doing that more in the next couple of weeks. You've got a couple workshops. If you're here on the island, in Vancouver Island, then he'll be doing a workshop in Victoria, as well as a workshop here in Couch Valley in Duncan on the 2nd in Victoria, on the 8th here in Duncan. It's going to be from 6 to 8:30. Either follow on Facebook to find out more, or also you could email Martin here at spiritofthetimes108@gmail.com to either learn more or sign up.
The name of the workshop is 2023 and Beyond. And so a full, large view of the astrology of our times should be really fun.
I'm looking forward to it. Have a wonderful week, everybody.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
So much love.
You gotta shut.
Oh.